Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
And we are going to answer a question that someone recently had about mealtimes.
Mealtimes in a polygamous family.
Feeding a million people.
Really though, not that far off. So, if you want to hear more about Sam growing up in polygamy, like and subscribe to these videos and you'll get to find out fun facts like what it's like to feed a million people at dinner every day.
True.
So, starting out, what kind of foods were typical? Because when you're feeding that many people, there's got to be like, you probably have those like go-to meals. Like every family has those go-to meals that it's like, this is what people make.
So it seemed like anything that you could just make in a big pot was very common.
Okay,
so,
a lot of soups?
A lot of soup, a lot of chili, a lot of rice, a lot of potatoes, that type of thing. And we would actually grow a lot of our own vegetables and that as well in our backyard. So we not all, but we always had a very big backyard. So we would have green beans, potatoes, carrots, lettuce, cabbage, beets. Man, I could go on and on. But we had a lot of things that we would grow in our own backyard that then we would harvest and cook for ourselves. But obviously you can't have enough food to support you year round. So we would buy a lot from places like Walmart and Costco to help provide. I do want to point out really quick here though that something that was very common that most people give me a weird look when I bring it up that we would eat, and I think this was,
it is not
common. We would make homemade bread, and so we always had loaves and loaves and loaves of bread. But it seemed like whenever there was a night and it was dinner time and the moms and the mothers were just like, you know what, we've had a big day, a long day, let's just not make anything. So they would slice up the bread and we would take the bread, we would break it up in our bowl, drizzle some honey over top, milk, done.
Bread and milk and honey. Please comment and tell me if you've ever heard of that or if you ever had that before, because I had never heard of it, and when he told me I was like,
it's interesting because of that, I don't mind soggy foods. So like cold cereal, for example, I could leave the milk on there for 20 minutes, come back and eat it and be perfectly happy. And I believe it's because bread would get so soggy so quick in those bowls that I just got used to eating so much soggy bread.
I hate soggy cereal. Like if it gets soggy, like I put barely enough milk in it, do not like it getting soggy, and he just like can leave it forever and be like, oh, it's just fine. Oh.
Yeah, it's I believe it's part of that, but I'll have to ask some of my siblings, see if they feel the same way or if they don't.
Or if they still do it. Like, is it nostalgic? Like they want to have soggy like bread in milk, or if they're like, no, once I left, I was happy to never have it again.
I don't think I've ever had it since moving out. I don't think I've had it. So that I can remember anyway. But when I'm eating a bowl full of cold cereal, I will often break a piece of my toast and throw it in there, and I do that all the time. I don't know why. I love it. So anyway, that's that. But
back to mealtimes.
Back to mealtimes. They were very structured. So it was mealtime is at this time, and everyone is required to be there. Period. So it wasn't, hey, we're going to have food out throughout the day, you eat when you want to eat. None of that.
Did everyone sit at one table? Because that's a lot of people. Because you'd have, what, like 20 people living in the house at a time?
Right. So yes and no. So we had 2 dining rooms. There was a large dining room that had I believe we actually stuck 3 or 4 large tables together, so it was just a really long. I mean, it was in some of the movies where one person's sitting on this end and the other person's sitting on this end, and you'd have to yell to so that person could hear you. So it would be a lot of, hey, could you please pass me the butter, and then you sit back and twiddle your thumbs, maybe watch a quick movie while the butter gets to you.
If you were allowed to watch movies.
Oh yeah, that's right. Bambi, if father was there, and that was allowed. But anyway. So very structured. We had to be there at a certain time, and I obviously, for good reason, they didn't want to have to keep pulling food out.
Yeah, makes sense.
And for that same reason, I believe we mentioned this in other videos, snacks weren't allowed either, unless it was approved by a mother and handed to you by a mother. You couldn't just go in and eat freely in the kitchens. I actually got in big trouble.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, so what happens if you went and tried to eat anything?
So I remember it was me and a couple of my siblings. We went in and we were just hungry and we started eating a few things out of the cupboards. And I was lucky enough that I never got any serious beatings or that kind of thing. So when I say I got in trouble, it was a very, 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 very disappointed father.
That's worse.
Who would sit us down and have a conversation for about 20 or so minutes about why we did it and what we're going to, and we're never going to do it again, and just talk about all that stuff. So anyway, so snacks were a no-no. Meals were very structured. Back to your question though about does everyone eat at the same time or at the same table? We had the one dining room that had all of the tables together, and so that was the main dining room, and generally speaking, that's where we'd all eat all the time, except for Father. Father would always eat in the other dining room, which I guess you would consider like a formal dining.
Huh.
So he would
just
always
by
eat.
Himself?
Well,
did he just need some peace and quiet, and he was like, you know what?
He would often come home from work after we've already had dinner.
Oh.
We had dinner, so he'd come home, and then one of the mothers seemed to be my mother a lot because she was very good at her salmon cooking skills. He loves salmon. Anyway, or stir fry salmon, both of those. But she would cook him a very fancy meal after we had our bread and milk, which was fine, whatever. I'd sit behind there asking her for a couple bites of salmon or whatnot. But so generally speaking, he would sit on the other table. It was a little bit of a fancier, like I say, like a formal dining area.
Okay, and when did the mothers eat? Did they eat with the children, or
Yes.
did they eat with Father?
No, they ate with the children. Yeah.
Okay.
They would prepare the food, and then we would all just kind of sit down and eat together. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then you were saying like those big meals. When you mentioned rice, it made me curious. What would you normally eat with rice? Because I feel like every family has like their go-to thing that they make with rice.
Or
maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Leave in the comments. Like, what do you eat with rice? Like, if your family was to make rice.
What would you eat with the rice?
Yeah, like what do I typically make? If I make rice, I typically make shrimp stir fry. That's like my go-to quick meal when I make rice.
Right. That's a good question.
I feel like every family.
I'm trying to remember.
Put him on the spot.
I know. I don't know. Did we have stuff with rice, or was it just rice? We had chicken. I believe that's probably what it was, because we did have chicken quite often as well. So
okay, so chicken.
I'm going to go with chicken and say that's what it was. That's the only thing that rings a bell. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
what about desserts? Like, did you guys have them frequently?
So this wasn't necessarily a church rule, but it was a father rule. He didn't like sugar in the house much, so we didn't really have much desserts. We had a lot of fresh fruits, that type of thing, if you could consider that a dessert. But on very special occasions, we would have ice cream and cake and that type of thing. But it was definitely not every meal.
Not the norm.
No, like having a dessert after every meal was just not normal at all. No, that was generally for family home evenings, which we had normally on Monday night. We would have a treat then. So like once a week, maybe twice a week, we'd have something. Yeah. So,
okay. And then what foods were off limits?
Pork.
Okay.
So anything.
But that was just your family, right? That was just
once
your father?
again, that was. But I couldn't say then if we're talking talking for the whole community, they had the word of wisdom, but they looked at it as a recommendation, not like a commandment.
Yeah. So for those of you who are familiar with the LDS, the word of wisdom is very important because you have to follow it in order to obtain a temple recommend.
Right,
so,
you're not allowed to eat and drink certain things.
Yeah, certain things. So for the LDS, it's very strict. For the FLDS, it's not as strict. It's just a recommendation rather than a commandment. So it's a little bit different in that aspect.
Right, but so I guess I couldn't speak for the whole community because I know that even leaders of the FLDS church would drink alcohol on occasion and eat all types of food. So I guess it just depended. It was a family to family kind of rule, but in our family we weren't supposed to have any pig meat at all. So, and very rarely did we get any beef or red meat of any kind. It was generally white meat, like turkey and chicken and that type of thing that we would eat in our house.
So how old were you when you first had bacon?
Oh my goodness. This was it was a life-changing experience for me. It was like right next to leaving That it was a big, oh man, it was a big experience. But I was working in the community actually at someone's home. We were doing a rock path in their yard for them, and well, in the home, his wife was cooking some bacon, and I was just like, what is this smell? Like this is amazing. And they came out with a plate and actually offered us a piece of bacon. So that was the first time I had tasted bacon. I guess I probably would have been 13. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. It was wow. And I've loved bacon ever since.
I was like, and he married into the right family because my family loves bacon. My dad is like obsessed with bacon.
Which is great for me because I love it too. But it was definitely, bacon was a huge no-no. Pepperoni, no-no. Really just chicken and turkey, I guess, was the main meat that we would have.
Okay. Last question before we wrap up would be, what did the preparation for Meals This Huge look like? Like, was it assigned certain kids every day, or like was there a rotation? How often did you have to help, cook, and how often did you have to help clean up?
Right. So I didn't help cook often.
Because the girls did.
Right. The women in the house, the mothers and the girls would be the ones that would make the bread, cook the meals, all that type of thing. I was very good at buttering toast. That's about it. But you might not agree with that because I put it on so light.
No, I had to teach him. I had to teach him when we got married how to put enough butter on a piece of toast.
You're right.
Because he would just kind of like, it was like scraped.
Yeah.
Just a little.
So toast is I like toast a lot more now that I put the right amount of butter on it. So.
Yes, that's what I'm here for, really.
But so the women would typically prepare the meals, and so I would on occasion sit there and watch my mother, and she would explain to me what she was doing, and then I would, that was that. Nothing really came of it. So
how long did it take them to cook dinner though?
Once again, it depends on the food. If it was bread and milk, it was a very quick 5-minute process. But if it was a fancier meal of sorts, then generally they were in there for about an hour to prepare it. But there were a couple of the mothers and several of the sisters in there all working together. We had an industrial sized kitchen, so we had a lot of space and stoves and ovens and all that stuff to work with. So so they were able to get things done pretty quickly. Okay,
and then did the boys have to do the dishes after the girls cooked for them?
Dishes, to me, it was always kind of a punishment. It seemed like it actually was a punishment sometimes. If we did something we weren't supposed to do, instead of getting a beating, our punishments were things like sit in a corner for 6 hours and think about what you did and maybe you won't do it again, or you have to wash all of the dishes for the next 3 nights. And
that would be a lot of dishes.
No one wants to do that. No one wanted to do all the dishes because it was a lot of dishes.
Did the chore typically fall on the girls?
Dishes,
or was it mixed?
We were all supposed to chip in and help. And the mothers, there were a lot of eyes, a lot of mothers, and the mothers would make sure that we stuck around. There were a lot of times I would try to jump up after a meal and jet down the stairs and go play outside, and I would always get caught by the mothers and have to come back and help. So we were all expected to help with the dishes and clean up and all of that. Yeah.
I do have to say that a lot of people ask too, like, okay, where he grew up where women were expected to do certain things so much, now where it's not like that at all, like we have 100% type of partnership. A lot of people ask me like, how is that like possible, or how long did that take? But he's also like so helpful with the dishes. Like if I cook, he just does the dishes. He doesn't ask me, he doesn't do anything. He like lets me, like, he's so good. You're so sweet.
Well, thank you. But
just so you know, like those type of things, just because I know that we'll get questions on that, those type of things, it's just not the same anymore since he left, and we've been married. He's always helpful with all the chores and stuff.
Yes, and something that I will always take and will always remember is we were taught growing up to work hard. And so hard work is something that I am not afraid of. It's something that I just am used to. And so I remember as a young boy sitting out there on my couch. I say my couch, our couch. and I would be sitting there, and it was summertime, and it was really hot outside, and I was supposed to go out and feed the chickens or whatever. There were a million chores all the times to do. And I would sit there and I would think to myself, okay, right now is I do not want to do anything right now. This is the worst possible time to get up and do anything. And I would just, right there in that moment, stand up and force myself to do it because I wanted to prove to myself that I could always be a hard worker. So that kind of thing was
Yeah.
ingrained into me at a young age, and so, you know, getting up and helping out with some dishes and that type of thing is no big deal.
At least I don't make you feed any chickens. So
No, no
we're good.
chickens.
It's no longer a punishment for him either. He just is sweet and does it automatically. But
Yeah.
if you guys have any more questions about what it was like at Mealtimes in a polygamous family, then leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, then like and subscribe, and
Yes.
we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you all. Talk to you soon.